This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Brody Carter. Today, calls to step aside. See why one newly elected Republican is under fire. Plus, a sit-down with Senator Tom Cotton. He's taking on America's enemies, foreign and domestic. And later, online apps for Bible reading and devotionals, very popular, but they could come with a price. All these stories and more, those are coming up. But first, trying to make it home for Christmas. It was certainly a nightmare for many Americans, especially those trying to fly on Southwest Airlines. Travelers who counted on Southwest suffered another wave of canceled flights Wednesday, with more coming today. And the federal government now investigating what had happened. Wendy Griffith has more in our top story.
I'm absolutely furious at Southwest Airlines.
Mike and Hannah tried for 7 days to make it to Seattle from Denver to celebrate Christmas with their son at his home. This was what things looked like at the Colorado airport on December 21st.
They don't care. So part of my rage is I'll probably never fly Southwest again.
To make matters worse, Southwest canceled their flight, but their bags stayed with Southwest after they took another airline.
They said our bags are in Denver, and then they said their bags are in Seattle.
While other airlines recovered from ferocious winter storms that hit large swaths of the country over the weekend, Southwest has canceled more than 8,000 flights just since Monday.
We were on the plane for about 3 hours before they deplaned us and canceled our flight, and then our next available flight is December 30th.
The airline, which is based in Dallas, was messed up by a combination of factors, including an out-of-date crew scheduling system and a network that lets cancellations in one region quickly cascade through the rest of the country. Those issues aren't new for Southwest. They had a similar failure in October of 2021. Southwest Airlines apologized and said they were doing everything they can to return to a regular operation.
Our plan for the next few days is to fly a reduced schedule and reposition our people and planes, and we're making headway.
But U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg called the meltdown unacceptable.
We are past the point where they could say that this is a weather-driven issue. What this indicates is a system failure.
Southwest CEO says it could be next week before the flight schedule returns to normal. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
The U.S. has announced new COVID testing requirements for all passengers coming from China, joining other nations imposing restrictions because of a surge of infections. The new requirements will start January 5th. Some scientists are worried that the COVID surge in China could unleash a new coronavirus worldwide. Well, meanwhile, the federal judge approved a $10 million settlement for Illinois healthcare workers. Judge John Kness approved the class action lawsuit for more than 500 current and former healthcare workers at Northshore University Health System. The workers were either forced to receive the COVID-19 shot to avoid termination or fired for refusing to take the vaccine. According to Liberty Counsel, this is the nation's first class-wide lawsuit for healthcare professionals over the COVID-19 shot mandate. You can read more on this story by going to cbnnews.com. Well, Congress begins its new session next week, and one newly elected Republican is already under fire. House Democrats want New York's George Santos barred from taking office. That's over reports that he'd lied about significant details of his life, including education, religion, and employment history. CBN's Abigail Robertson reports.
Long Island Congressman-elect George Santos admitted this week that while he lied about things like his education and work experience on the campaign trail, he insists it won't deter him from serving his constituents.
I'm not resigning. I have to leave Congress, Guy. It's going to be by a pink slip by the voters November of 2024.
In an interview with the New York Post, Santos claimed, "We do stupid things in life," while trying to explain his blatant dishonesty. Santos claimed to have received a degree from Baruch in 2010, though he now admits he didn't graduate from any institution of higher learning. He also fibbed about working for Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, confessing to the Post he never worked directly with either firm. In a since-deleted bio on his campaign website, Santos stated his mother was Jewish, while describing himself as a proud American Jew to Jewish and pro-Israel leaders.
My grandparents survived the Holocaust, so these regimes of socialism, Marxism, they don't work.
Santos told the Post he's clearly Catholic and claims he only said he was Jew Ish. Santos made history when he became the first openly gay non-incumbent Republican to be elected to Congress. He told USA Today in October that he's a gay married man who never had an issue with his sexuality in the last decade. He did not disclose, however, being previously married to a woman for about 5 years until 2017. While Republicans have remained silent on Santos, House Democrats are calling on him to resign or for the new GOP House majority to hold a vote to expel him.
We need answers from George Santos. He appears to be a complete and utter fraud.
Campaign finance disclosures are also raising questions about how Santos quickly accumulated wealth ahead of the 2022 campaign. Fellow New York Congressman Richie Torres is urging the House Ethics Committee to look into where Santos made his money, saying where there's smoke, there's fire. Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Police in the United Kingdom arrested a pro-life advocate who was silently praying outside an abortion clinic. It happened in the city of Birmingham, England. Isabel Vaughan Spruce, director of the UK March for Life, was standing silently near the clinic with no signs or materials. The city maintains buffer zones around abortion clinics. When the police asked Vaughan Spruce if she was praying, she responded, "I might be praying in my head." They arrested her for failing to comply with a public spaces protection order. The religious freedom group ADF UK is representing her in court. Actor Kirk Cameron is declaring victory after public libraries agreed to allow him to read his faith-based book to children and families. Cameron's book, As You Grow, teaches kids about faith, family, and biblical wisdom. He contacted about 50 public libraries to read the book, but was either rejected or ignored. Many of those libraries offer a drag queen story hour where men dress as women to read to children. Cameron and his publisher sent a letter and a copy of the book to those libraries asking them to reconsider. He told CBN's Faith Wire he was ready to follow up with stronger action.
I told him that I'm prepared to assert my constitutional rights in court. It's not okay to say yes to drag queen story hours and teach children one kind of values and say no to other community members who would like to have their children taught other values in the same library, in the same room, for the same amount of time as other people are allowed. That's called viewpoint discrimination.
At least 2 libraries changed course after receiving his letter. Well, coming up, Senator Tom Cotton is taking on America's enemies, foreign and domestic. Hear his words for Vladimir Putin and see why he's accusing the left of, quote, sabotaging American power. Chaos at the southern border, the war in Ukraine, and the humiliating withdrawal from Afghanistan. Republican Senator Tom Cotton is bold in expressing his opinions on these disasters. This former Army Ranger who served in Iraq has a unique perspective on foreign policy. Recently, the senator spoke with CBN's Matt Galka about the views laid out in his newest book, Only the Strong.
How America handles threats in relations with other countries seems to stay under the political microscope, from war raging between Russia and Ukraine to ongoing issues at our southern border. Senator Cotton offers his analysis on past mistakes and potential solutions on U.S. foreign policy.
There's a lot of history in this book, going back 100 years, the progressive era and Woodrow Wilson, coming forward to the presidencies of Barack Obama and Joe Biden. So reading more deeply about the history of the progressive left and their views on American power, and also how we've turned it around at various times, whether it was Eisenhower taking over in the middle of the Korean War, Nixon the Vietnam War, Reagan when Jimmy Carter had brought American power to a previous low, wasn't just interesting in itself, but also helps a lot in my day job.
Cotton tackles a number of topics, including the United States' chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
I think it's a combination of President Biden's insecurity and his rank incompetence that led to the collapse of Afghanistan in August before we even got all of our people out. So what should have happened? Certainly the president should have not taken the precipitous steps that he did that ensured failure. For instance, closing down Bagram Air Base before we had all of our personnel out.
The senator ties that moment from August of 2021 to one of today's most pressing international issues, Russia's war with Ukraine. Cotton writes, Biden didn't just leave our people behind during his retreat from Afghanistan. His weakness enticed Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. But Joe Biden didn't invade Ukraine. Vladimir Putin did. So is it fair to completely blame our president for what's going on right now between those two countries?
Well, I don't completely blame President Biden. Obviously, Vladimir Putin bears the brunt of the blame for the war of aggression in Ukraine. But it's equally clear that deterrence failed. I mean, Vladimir Putin has now invaded Ukraine twice under two Democratic presidents. He didn't invade during a Republican president.
Cotton argues the Democrats are participating in what he calls decline by design. Are you insinuating that Democrats, progressives, want a weakened country? I mean, think about your colleagues, the Democratic colleagues that you've worked with before. Do you think they want a weakened country?
It's the genuine belief that American power is not likely to lead to strength, safety, and prosperity, but rather to war and oppression and arrogance, that the world would be a better place if America would simply pull in its horns and atone for its sins and become a more normal nation. That's what I mean when I say it's decline by design and the intentional sabotage of American power. Not that progressives are, again, necessarily anti-American, though plenty are, but they have deep ambivalence about America and American power and its role in the world.
Cotton maintains the United States should continue to provide military aid to Ukraine. He sees it as a major deterrent to one of America's biggest threats, China.
Strength and resolution with clarity about our intentions will lead to peace. It won't lead to war.
Closer to home, Cotton advocates for a complete overhaul of the U.S. southern border. Apprehensions hit a record 2.4 million in the past year, and the Title 42 policy allowing the government to quickly expel migrants under COVID rules could end soon. The overhaul starts with America's asylum policy.
We want to offer refugee and asylum status to people with legitimate fears. If they fear that they're going to be persecuted because of their Christian faith, or if they fear that they're going to be persecuted because they're a woman in their home country. Those are legitimate asylum and refugee claims. But coming here because you simply want a better job and a better life, that's not suitable for our refugee and asylum system. Those kinds of people should be coming through regular immigration systems for people who want to immigrate here and become citizens and become part of this country.
Only the Strong could serve as a potential pre-presidential run memoir, although 2024 is not something the Arkansas Republican can commit to right now.
Don't have any big announcements about 2024. We've closed the chapter on that so far. Maybe not closing the book for the future, but we have young boys, 7 and 5 years old, and that's just a particularly challenging age for Dad to be on the road, 6 or 7 days a week for 2 years.
Although Senator Cotton told me he enjoyed being out on the trail campaigning for midterm candidates around the country, it wasn't his full-time job. He added that if his children were a bit younger or older, his 2024 decision could have been different. Matt Gelka, CBN News.
Senator Tom Cotton's book is titled Only the Strong, Reversing the Left's Plot to Sabotage American Power. You can find it wherever books are sold. Well, still ahead, prayer apps are gaining in popularity, but what you might not know is they could come with a price tag. We'll explain how when we come back. Well, phone apps for Bibles, devotionals, and prayer increasingly popular, but using them can come with a price. John Jessup explains the risks to our online privacy.
The popularity of religious apps on our mobile devices has surged over the past couple of years as people flock online to practice their faith. Entrepreneurs and investors also see this as a potential moneymaker. To use a biblical reference, where the harvest is plentiful.
The thought of worship likely conjures scenes like these. As more churches and ministries go digital,
my soul leaps.
Worship also includes what we see on our mobile screens.
There are certain trade-offs in that, is that not only do we get to reach the world for Christ and be able to share the gospel, but at the same respect, we're able to stay connected. But one of the parts that this conversation often stays is technology good or bad? And reality is it's kind of both.
Jason Thacker writes about the intersection between technology and faith. He's finding while users enjoy the convenience of, say, reading the Bible on their phones, it often comes with the price of exchanging a trove of personal information. Meaning, in reality, users have moved from consumer to product.
You're paying for it by turning and divulging this type of data in order to be have that data manipulated and turned into various predictive products, and those predictive products being sold to advertisers to get your eyeballs. And so that's why you have a free Facebook account or TikTok or Instagram or Twitter.
With each download, we potentially give those apps sole discretion of just how much to collect.
There is far too much temptation to abuse that. There's temptation to gather too much information, and you already have the information, so why not try to profit from it, or why not try to use it for other things? And as a Christian, I go back to right where it says in Scripture, for all have sinned and have fallen short of the glory of God.
Early this year, Pray.com made headlines after an online news outlet highlighted that the company buys information from data brokers to build user profiles with personal details already recorded through the app, like someone's location. The article also noted that the privacy policy acknowledges it shares user information with third parties, giving the company the right to sell your prayers. Something Pray.com told CBN News it categorically denies.
We do not sell data. We're not in the business of selling data.
The company's original statement pushed back on what it called false claims with little to no effort to correct the record.
The confusion lies in the original article that it never directly says that we do, but it's worded in such a way to insinuate that we might. We make prayer a priority. We're the #1 app in daily prayer. We help people grow their faith.
Hey, Pray.com family, this is Drew Brees. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so I'd like to share how we connect our faith to this.
Pray.com, like some other for-profit faith-based apps, has also drawn scrutiny over big money investors. For Beck, a company co-founder, venture capital funding helps Pray.com fulfill its mission while allowing their financial backers to leave a legacy.
Before us, there wasn't a lot of interest in religion because it was a little bit taboo. People were a little scared to venture into it. A lot of people were seeing the value that we can bring to the world, and they were wanting to do something beyond make money. So they were wanting to leave a legacy. And one of our vision is to create a world where everyone leaves a legacy of helping others.
Still, cybersecurity experts say it's important to be cautious.
From a technology standpoint, it doesn't matter if it's a faith-based app. It's still technology. Computers are completely agnostic. Okay, computers do not have souls. They can't be saved.
We don't realize how that data can be used to manipulate us, to control us, to shape our perception of truth and reality. When we're talking about privacy, is that you don't have a right to know everything about me, nor do I have the right to know everything about you, especially in a fallen and broken world.
Most apps use data to personalize user experience, which can still leave the door open for privacy concerns. So for better protection, Thacker says it's important to understand how technology is being used and to help shape the debate around privacy policy.
That's where Christians can be involved. And be involved in not only knowing what's happening and the issues at stake, but also providing this kind of rich Christian moral tradition or rich understanding of what does it mean to be a human, which I think is really the most important question of the day, from digital privacy all the way over to sexuality, issues of abortion, is what does it mean to be human?
Beyond being intentional, Gowling recommends exercising caution.
Be careful where you download your applications. And that's really the most that you can do, because people are going to be using these apps, and at some point stuff is on somebody else's computer. That's where you lose control of it. You can only really control what you tell them and what is on your own device.
The issue of privacy protection is a hot topic, spawning fierce debate on both the state and federal levels. Unlike the European Union with the General Data Protection Regulation, only a handful of states like California enforce privacy protection, which means for now, each user should employ wisdom and be mindful of the apps they use and what they share. John Jessup, CBN News, Washington.
A great story there from CBN's John Jessup. Coming up, see why perfect strangers came together for an extended journey. Stay with us. With the wave of canceled Southwest flights over the last few days, it's good to see people unite and work together. Earlier this week, Erica Hawthorne, Carrie Sharon, and Jasper Gulliver all found out their Baltimore to Austin flight was canceled, and the next plane was available only on Friday. Other airlines were also charging around $2,000 for a one-way trip. They decided as a group together to pitch in a total of $250 for the last rental car still available at the airport. And then they set off for Texas. They're not quite sure if the airline or insurance will reimburse their travel expenses, but it does make for quite the story. That is our finality here for CBN's Newswatch. Thanks for choosing us. And remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories that you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com, or you can talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.